So we are class number 12, Masechet Makkot. We were studying the statement of Rabbi Akiva. Let me review what the statement was, okay? So we can inject ourselves right into the sugya, because last time we almost finished the sugya, but we didn't finish the sugya. We have a few lines to go. So I want to just inject ourselves into the statement of Rabbi Akiva so that we can understand what was happening. Rabbi Akiva said, Mishum Rabbi Akiva Amru. Look at the middle of the page. Af en mishalmim al pi asman. Hi Zaur, how are you? Af en mishalmim al pi asman. What does it mean, af en mishalmim al pi asman? We said, edim zomemin, that come to court, they testify. They testify against the defendant. And then they recant. They say, wait, we were lying. Rabbi Akiva says, en mishalmim al pi asman. Now, was there any source for the statement of Rabbi Akiva? No, there was no source. So, what's the basis for Rabbi Akiva's statement? Sevara, kasavar. What does kasavar mean? Legal reasoning, judicial reasoning. So, kasavar kenasahu. The reasoning behind Rabbi Akiva's statement is that if you say that when the Aidim Zomemim pay, it's a kenas, then we have a rule. And what is the rule? Remember what the rule is? Modeh biknas patur. So if you say that the payment that Aidim Zomemim make is a kenas, and they're modim in the kenas, modeh biknas patur, that's the sevara of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, we studied that last week. And we saw that there was no source for that sevara. Now, the point of our sugya is to see, is there something in the Amoraitic literature that bears upon the statement of Rabbi Akiva? That's what we're going to be doing now. Right? And we started it last week. We found the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. The statement of Rabbi Yehuda was a kind of a riddle. What did Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda says, this is Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, second line from the top. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amarav.
And svara, what is the legal weight of svara? Do you have to find a source for it, or can
sometimes you need to use sevara. Sometimes you have an issue that comes before the bet din. There's nothing directly on point. You have to use sevara. But sevara, as I explained, it's not any sevara. It's not any reasoning. Reasoning has no limits, right? Sevara means judicial reasoning, the reasoning of the bet din. When Chachamim sit down and analyze something according to the halacha, they have a particular method. It's not a free-for-all, right? So the point is, sevara doesn't mean any sevara. For example, there's Greek logic. Greek logic doesn't particularly appeal to me. But there's Greek logic. There's geometrical logic. There's Platonic logic. Sevara means rabbinic thinking, rabbinic methodology. And that's not everything. That's really important. Okay. Back now to our subject. Rabbi Yehuda makes a statement. Look at Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, top of the page. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amara, Oed Zomem Meshalem Lefi Chelko. Okay. Oed Zomem Meshalem Lefi Chelko. What does that mean? It's a riddle. It's a riddle. We don't know. We're going to speculate. Now the reason we're bringing the statement, Oed Zomem Mishalem lefi chelko, Ed Zomem must pay according to his portion. What does that mean? Okay, it's a riddle. And the reason we're bringing that riddle is because the solution to the riddle, it bears upon the statement of Rabbi Akiva. So here you're going to have a Moraitic statement, lesson, that bears upon what Rabbi Akiva said. Okay? So now let's go to Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amarav. Again, 2 lines from the top of Daf Gimel Amud Bet. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Shekol Yam Belo.
I'm assuming Rabbi Yehuda is the student of Rav, correct?
That is correct. Rav was Yeshivat Surah. Rabbi Yehuda was his Talmid. And he says as follows. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amarav Oed Zomem משלם לפי חלקו. עד זומם, he pays in proportion to, he pays proportionately. What does that mean, he pays proportionately? My משלם לפי חלקו. We will propose 3 answers. Answer number 1 will be rejected. Answer number 2 will be rejected. Let's start with answer number 1. מה משלם לפי חלקו? אילמה דהי משלם פלגה. והי משלם פלגה. Perhaps the statement of Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav means as follows. It seems what I mean. They say the defendant owes Mr. Magoo $1,000. Okay? It ends up, there's Zomemim. So now, how much do they have to pay the defendant? How much do the Edim Zomemim have to pay the defendant? $1,000.
Okay.
$1,000 total. Maybe when Rabbi Yehuda said Ed Zomem Meshalem Lefich Leko, it means each Ed pays his proportion. So you have 2 Edim. The testimony was $1,000. Ed number 1 pays $500. Ed number 2 pays $500. Lefich Leko, in proportion, right? Is that what Rabbi Yehuda meant? No. And how do you know that it's not what he meant? Tanena. Meshaleshin b'mamon. Ve'en meshaleshin b'malkut. We have a Mishnah. Mishnah says exactly that. And Rabbi Yehuda is not going to waste the time of the Bet Midrash by teaching a lesson which is explicit in the Mishnah. He wouldn't say, guys, here's a Hidush. Ayed zomem meshalem lefi chalko. Rather, what would Rabbi Yehuda do in the name of Rab? He would just quote the Mishnah. And the Mishnah says, Mishaleshin b'mamon, ve'en mishaleshin b'malkut. So, back to the drawing board. Big X. Solution number 1 to the riddle, tossed out. Solution number 2. What did Rab Yehuda mean by Ed Zomem Meshalem Lefi Chalko? So now, go to the next. Ella keron de itzam. The Munich manuscript has the itzam. Ella keron de itzam. Had minayu de meshalem palgadi de. Okay, here's a second solution to the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. You have Reuben and Shimon, Edim. They say that the defendant owes Mr. Magoo $1,000. Okay, Reuben and Shimon. Comes Zebulun and Yisachar. They say, Imanu hayitem, you were with us at that time. You couldn't have possibly seen that the defendant owes Mr. Magoo $1,000. You were with us at the time of the incident that you claim happened. So Edim Zomemim, very good. Maybe here's the situation. Come Zebulun and Yisachar. They don't know where Shimon was. They don't know anything about Shimon. What do they know? Reuven. They know that Reuven, we didn't know what happened to Shimon. Shimon might have seen it. Maybe Shimon says, let me give you the actual scenario. Reuven and Shimon say, Sunday morning we saw the defendant borrowing $1,000 from Mr. Magoo. It was Sunday morning in Manhattan Beach in this synagogue, Ohel Davin Shlomo. We saw Mr. Magoo giving the defendant $1,000 as a loan. He's supposed to pay. It was a 1 week loan. He's supposed to pay it back today. Come Zebulun and Yisachar, and they say, really, Reuven, you were with us. You were with us on a ski trip in Aspen Sunday morning. You could not have possibly seen any loan taking place. What about Shimon? We don't know about Shimon. Maybe Shimon saw it. Maybe Shimon was there. I don't know. We don't know. But we know that Reuven wasn't there. So Reuven becomes an Eid Zomem. So now the question is, what's the Hidush of Rabbi Yehuda? The Hidush of Rabbi Yehuda is, even though Shimon is not an Eid Zomem, but Reuven is an Eid Zomem. And since Reuven is an Eid Zomem, Reuven should pay how much?
1,000.
So you would think he would pay 1,000, but no. Eid Zomem Shalem Lefi Chalko, he pays 500 exactly. That's the Hidush of Rabbi Yehuda. Is that the Hidush? Is that the Hidush? So the Gemara says, no, that's not correct. Is that correct? That in the scenario that I described to you, that Reuven would pay $500 to the defendant? Really? Vehatanya, we have an explicit beraita. The beraita says, "En ed zomem mishalem mamon ad sheyizomu shenehem." In order for the law of edim zomemim to take place, the two edim have to be zomemim. So if only one of the edim becomes zomem and the other ed is not zomem, you can't even make the one ed pay his portion. So let me take you back to that same scenario. Zevulun and Yisachar come to the port and they say that Reuven was with us. He couldn't have possibly seen that. And he's an ed zomem. The Dayanim would say, no, he's not an ed zomem. He's an ed sheker. He's a liar. He's not. We're not going to accept his testimony. But the law of ed zomem doesn't apply. Why doesn't the law of ed zomem apply? Because they both have to be zomemim. And we don't have we don't have any testimony with respect to Shimon. We only have testimony for Reuven. You understand the law? You understand the way it works? So therefore, that's not the solution to the riddle. So big X, throw out the second proposed solution. We still have this outstanding question. What did Rabbi Yehuda mean when he said, we still haven't answered the question. We're going to now have the third scenario, the third proposal to answer the question of the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, that's the third scenario. Quickly, go ahead.
What if Dan and Levi come in and testify that Shimon was with them?
Right.
So he also becomes an edim.
Right, so that's fine. Then he becomes an etzomem. Correct. Then he would be an etzomem. They would both be edim zomemim, and at that point, correct. Okay. All right. Amar Rabba. The solution to the problem comes from Rabba. What's interesting about the fact that it comes from Rabba? Rabba was an Emora. He was the Rosh Yeshiva in Mechoza. What's interesting about that? Because yes.
Who said it initially? He was the one.
Who's one who explains the Sevara of Rabbi Akiva? Rava. The same Rava who explains the Sevara of Rabbi Akiva, he comes and he solves this riddle. Amar Rava be'omer. I'm sorry?
He was asking about the Girsah because he wasn't.
Right. It's Rava and not Rabba. The Girsah says
with the Aleph, right?
Rava is with an Aleph. Rabba bar Nachmani is with a He. There's a ta'ut in the Girsah. It's not Amar Rabba, it's Amar Rava. Okay, here they say so the same Rava who explains the Sevara of Rabbi Akiva, that's the Rava who decodes the meaning of Rabbi Huda's statement. Amar Rava.
To be clear, Rava was a student of Rabba.
Rava was a generation after Rabba in Rabbi Yosef. So what happened is when Rabba and Rabbi Yosef, they were the Rosh Yeshiva in Pumbedita, and then when they died, Abaye, who was a friend of Rabba, became the Rosh Yeshiva Pumbedita, and Rabba, who probably was a bit disillusioned, decided to open up a yeshiva in his hometown in Mechoza. And then eventually all the yeshiva moved to Mechoza, which is where Rabba was. And that's why he's known as the Rabba Dimchoza. Because most of the Hachamim in those days were in Pumbedita or in Surah, where Rabba opened up his own yeshiva in Mechoza. Okay, let's continue. Amar Rabba Be'omer Edu Sheker He'avti. Okay, here is the solution. Here is the scenario. Reuben and Shimon, again, they come to court. The defendant owes Mr. Magoo $1,000. Fine, very good. Comes one of the Edim, he comes before the judge and he recants. He says, Your Honor, I was lying. I wasn't there. I never saw the defendant borrowing the money from Mr. Magoo. I couldn't have seen the defendant borrowing the money from Mr. Magoo. I was on a ski trip. in Aspen, having fun, doing moguls. Okay? So, what do we do now? What do we do with this person? So, Rabbi Yehuda would tell us, Ayed Zomem Meshalem Lefi Halko. It seems to be, therefore, that now this Ayed, he just made himself an Ed Zomem. He would have to pay how much? Not $1,000. How much would he have to pay? 500. So it would appear. That's what it appears that Rava is saying. Again, Amar Rava, the Omer, Edu Cheker, Ha'idoti. Okay, very nice. That's the proposal.
Wait, didn't we say that would be a checker, not a zumen?
Well, I mean, that's if somebody else comes, if two other Edim come. Remember, Zebulun and Yisachar come and they're mizimim et Reuven. Here, Rava is proposing something a little different. Rava is proposing that Reuven himself recants. It's not that two Edim come and say, you're a liar, you were with us. No. Rather, it's Reuven himself who is saying, I'm a liar and I recant. I want to withdraw my testimony.
You can make yourself as a man, didn't Rabbi?
So that's exactly the question. That's the question. So stop for a moment because we're going to analyze this. You're asking good questions, but we're actually going to analyze it. So let's look at the analysis. So again, Rava is proposing a solution to the riddle of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, "Ayed zomem meshalem lefi halko." Rava says, what does that mean? Ayed zomem shehezim et asmo meshalem lefi halko. He pays $500. So it would seem, but wait, let's analyze it. Gemara says, and this is probably happening in Mechozah, meaning Rava is proposing the solution. He's a Rosh Yeshiva, and Chachamim, they like to get their students thinking, right? So there's a difference in studying Gemara and studying Halakha. If you come to my Halakha class, I'll teach you Halakha. This is Halakha. I'm not going to confuse you. If you come to my Gemara class, I'm also not going to confuse you, I hope, but I'm going to make you think. I'm going to make you think. So Rava makes that statement. Now that statement is perplexing. You see that Albert is perplexed by the statement. He's wondering, wait, I don't get it. So if Reuven and Shimon come and they say he's Ed Zomem, he doesn't have to pay the $500. If he makes himself an Ed Zomem, he has to pay the $500. Like, okay, so he's throwing that out.
So he can self-incriminate himself?
Right, so he's throwing it out. Rava is throwing out that solution. So now the yeshiva in Mechozah is analyzing it. Kol kemineh, he has the power. The power comes from him to decide whatever he wants to decide. 1 second he says, defendant owes $1,000. A few minutes later he says, no, defendant doesn't owe $1,000. Really? Kol kemineh, that's it. It all comes from him. He decides. He's like the king. His mouth makes the determination. We have a principle. We actually have a principle. Kevan shehigid, shuv eno chazer umagid. There is actually a halakha. Let me read you the halakha in the Rambam. The halakha says that once a person's testimony is accepted in court, he can't decide to recant the testimony. There's an interesting question that was once in the Rabbanim test in Eretz Yisrael. The question was similar, not exactly. The question was as follows. הייתה שאלה בבחינה לרבנות בארץ ישראל בעניין דיני אישות. אז השאלה הייתה ככה. עדי קידושין שמה. עכשיו הרב רוצה לחתן את הזוג. בא מישהו ואומר עוד מעט מגיעים שני עדים שיגידו שהאישה נשואה למישהו לפלוני אלמוני. מה לעשות? So that was a question in one of the Rabbanut tests. The question was, they have the wedding, and you have two edim. They're going to now make the kiddushin in the presence of the two edim. Somebody comes, hold on, stop the wedding. Two people are going to come soon, and they're going to testify that this woman is married. Do we stop the wedding? The answer is no. We don't stop the wedding because we have the two edim that are going to make it mikudeshet, and we don't need to, we don't need to stop the wedding because somebody says that two edim are going to come. No, we don't have to stop the wedding. So it's not the same situation here, but the point is as follows. Kevan shehigid shuv eno chazer umagid. Here's the point. I'm going to read to you the Lashon in Harambam.
Baba, can I ask a question? I was a side point, but.
Yes, ask.
The two edim in the wedding situation.
Yes.
They're two absolutely new edim that are witnessing a wedding taking place now.
Yes, correct.
They're not aware of anything that's going on in the past.
Of course.
So if someone says that we know that this woman is married, why
Right.
don't you give testimony?
Right, so because we have a hazakah, right? We have a hazakah, and the hazakah is that the lady is not married, and we go by the hazakah. Now, if you have, based on the fact that that the father is there, and there was a certain a period of time that passed during which they were discussing during the shidduchin period when they were discussing she should get married, not married, and we don't have to assume that just because somebody says, let's say somebody says this water is, well, actually that's a bad example, but in this case, in order to turn the hazakah, you need to have the two edim there now, testifying before us. And they're not there. They're not there. Actually, the correct answer on the test was, you do the wedding. That was actually the answer on the test. You do the wedding. You don't have to, because otherwise, anytime somebody wants to get married, you postpone the wedding. Okay, let's have the wedding now. Another two weddings. That's what we go by the hazakah. We always go by the hazakah. But getting back now to this, listen to Rambam in Hilchot Edut, Perek Gimel Halacha. It's not the same situation, but I just brought it because it jingled my memory for some reason. Okay. Kol Ed Shenechkera Eduto Bevet Din. We have a witness. He comes to the judges, and they examine him. They ask him questions. When they ask questions from the edim, it's serious. It's heavy, right? Ben Bedin Mamonot, whether it has to do with money. Ben Bedin Nefashot, whether it has to do with capital punishment. En Yachol Achazor Bo. The witness cannot decide, I recant my testimony. I changed my mind. Doesn't work like that. Kesa. Let's give an example. Amar Mut'ay Hayiti. He comes to the court, he says, Your Honor, I just realized, I made a mistake. I made a terrible mistake. That's it. The testimony was brought before the court. They examined him. They spoke to him. They reached the conclusion that the testimony is a testimony. That's it. It's done. Or another example. Shorei Hayiti. What is Shorei Hayiti? Mut'eh means I made a mistake in judgment. I said something that was wrong. Shogeg means I unintentionally misconstrued the situation. Right? It was unintentionally misconstrued. And now I remember something that I forgot. Right? So mut'eh means I misjudged what happened. Shogeg means I forgot something and now I remember. I want to repeat what I said because I wasn't clear the first time around, so I'm going to say it now a third time. Mut'eh hayiti means I misinterpreted what took place. Shogeg means I forgot something and I remember something that I forgot. Okay? Another thing. Lefochdo asiti. I did it because I was afraid. They threatened me. But now, I'm letting you know that I was threatened. En shomayim lo. You don't have to listen to him. Afilu natan tam mivaray. It gives a good excuse. Right? That you cannot come to court. You don't decide. The dayanim decide. They're intelligent people. They know how to ask questions. They're very mature. They're very sophisticated. They know psychology. They understand what's happening. You can't fool the dayanim. Okay?
No Frank Pentangeli is allowed.
What?
No Frank Pentangeli is allowed.
Yes. No lawyers there to say, Your Honor, I object. Well, by the way, I'm a lawyer, so I can speak against the legal system. It's one big. It's just. I'm sorry. Really? It's just completely reprehensible. The whole legal system. The whole thing is to manipulate. Everybody tries to manipulate the trial in favor of his client, whether the client is guilty, innocent, doesn't matter. I'm going to manipulate and try to come out with a victory. Well, come on. Are you joking? Best thing is Judaism. Come to court, come in front of the dayanim, they'll ask you questions, and let them eviscerate you with their eyes and burn you if you're lying. Okay, that's the right way to do it. This whole thing that happens today is just unexcusable. Let's continue.
What if he recants before his testimony is complete?
No, that's different. That's during the examination. We're talking about
After his testimony was accepted.
It was complete. They examined him and they completed the examination. During the examination, the guy goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm lying." All right, let's get the heck out of our court. Give him Makkot on the way out, okay? All right.
So, Ein Mishalmim Al Pi Atzmo is just for Knas. If it's not Knas, then in this case, they Mishalmim Pi Chalko. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, so now, perhaps we can say that the situation, this seems to be what Rabbi is saying. Rabbi wanted to say that he wants to recant his testimony. But here we see you cannot recant your testimony. That's not the way it works. Okay? That's what Rabbi wants to say. So, all right, so what does it mean then? Rabbi says again, but you're not allowed to recant your testimony. So what is Rabbi talking about? Okay? Let's be more intelligent in what Rabba, in what took place. Therefore, I'm sorry. So no, we reject that. Ela be'omer he'adnu ve'huzamnu bevet din peloni. So here's the final solution. Here is what the statement of Rabbi Yehuda meant. The statement of Rabbi Yehuda meant as follows. They were coming before a court, okay? They come before a court, they say, Your Honors, we want to confess that previously we testified in another court and we were found to be edim zomemim. So what are you doing here? We want to pay the money we owe. Why would you want to pay the money you owe? Because when you don't pay the money, as I brought you the story in last week's class, it has real consequences. And at some point in your life, you begin to think about why you're suffering so much, and you realize, that's what I did wrong. I see it. Okay, so now you live in another city, you come before the Bet Din, and you say, Hey Adnu, we previously were false witnesses, Vehuzamnu, and we were turned into Adim Zomemin, Bevet Din Peloni, in another court. In another court. So here is a situation where they would have to pay the money, right? Well, that's an interesting question. So what do you think? Let's talk about this. So they're coming before court number 2, and they say, we owe $1,000, we're Edim Zomemi, and we previously lied. We said that the defendant, in court number 1, we said that the defendant owed Mr. Magoo $1,000, and they found this to be Edim Zomemi. We skipped town, we skipped bail, we ran away, we've been living here suffering, unable to make a nickel to our name, and now we realize why. Please take our money. You understand? Does a Bet Din take their money? Does a Bet Din try to make them pay up? Right? That's a question.
How does it get turned over to Mr. Magoo?
Doesn't matter. That's a technical question. The question is a legal one. I'm asking a legal question. I don't want to get into the technicalities. That's an interesting question, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, should they have to pay?
No.
Okay, that's an interesting thing. Why do you say no?
I say no because it's a different court.
Okay.
And maybe the judges have no jurisdiction in that court.
Okay. Any other theories? Any other theories?
It's a different venue.
Okay, so let's look at what?
Still, it's not so clear whether it's actually Kanas still. Right, because the Edim came, so is it considered Modim or is it not? Maybe that's the better question. Are they
So
really Modim
let's
or not?
think about Rabbi Akiva's earlier statement. What did Rabbi Akiva say previously? Rabbi Akiva said that Mishum Rabbi Akiva Amru, Av en Meshamim al pi asman. If their testimony cannot be a basis for them paying what they owe as Edim Zomemim, because Edim Zomemim is Kenas. So apparently, what does Rav want to say, or the conclusion of the Gemara seems to be that Be'omer he'adnu ve'huzamnu bevet din peloni. They're saying we previously testified falsely, and now we want to rectify the situation. Doesn't that seem to go against Rabbi Akiva? Keman de la Rabbi Akiva. Apparently, the way Rava interprets, or the way Rava makes Pesach Halacha, assuming this is Rava, is different than what Rabbi Akiva makes Pesak Halacha. Rava seems to be saying that if you come to the second court and you say we are false witnesses, here we want to pay, the court says, yeah, pay us up. You owe the money, pay up. Whereas Rabbi Akiva says, en mishalem pay asman.
But their obligations when they got to the Hozamna part.
Okay, so what?
So it's not up Asman, it's up the Hozamna.
Okay, that's a very good point.
But they wouldn't have to pay in the second court unless they came and admitted it.
Right, if there was already,
They would have
already
had,
had other
the
witnesses in
first
the
court
first
would have
court,
had to.
that's
find
when they're
the money.
obligated to pay already.
So here's the
One
point.
is self-incriminating, the other one is.
Right.
Rabbi Akiva's case, it's more of a self-incrimination and you
Right.
don't pay. But in this case, they were proven to be discredited by another set of witnesses, so it's not.
Right. So now, okay, all valid points. And here's the final answer. So the previous answer, let's call it answer number 4, Be'omer, He'adnu ve'huzamnu bebetin peloni. That answer needs to be, no, that's not exactly correct. Here's the final answer. Ela Be'omer, when did Rabbi Yehuda say, Ed zomeh meshalem al pi asmo, He'adnu ve'huzamnu bebetin peloni ve'chuyavnu mamon. The previous betin made a Pesak Halacha. There was a verdict. The verdict was you owe money. Once the verdict comes out, once a betin issues a verdict, that verdict is in place. It's irrevocable, meaning they owe the money unless the betin ended up being there was an appeal process in Judaism, but assuming no appeals, that verdict is an existing debt. It's not like their testimony created the debt. The debt was already there. So when the Rabbi Akiva said, "En meshalmim al pi asmam," we're dealing with a situation where there was no verdict that said you owe money. They said we owe money. The Betin never said they owe money. So when Rava said, interpreting the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, I'm assuming it's Rava, just because, for whatever reason. So when the Gemara says, when the Yeshiva says, you know what the Rabbi Yehuda meant when Rabbi Yehuda says, it's dealing with a situation where the Edin Zomemim were before court A. And in court A, there was a verdict, and the verdict says that you owe $1,000. And now comes one of the Edim to court B, and he says, you know what, guys, I owe $500. I'm an Ed Zomem. I owe $500. In that case, Rabbi Akiva would agree that he pays the $500. When did Rabbi Akiva say, En mishalem al pi atzmo? If he's the source for the debt, meaning there is no obligation, but he's creating the obligation, but here the obligation exists. And also, another point. Normally we say that in order to make them edim zomemim, they both have to be zomemim. And if only one of them becomes zomem, you don't say that one that became zomem pays $500 because the other one doesn't have to pay $500. Here they both have to pay $500. So even though only one of them is coming to court, he pays it $500 because the debt exists. It's an existing debt. The other Ed also pays or has to pay $500 theoretically if they catch him and they can find him. So let me read the Gemara, and that's a beautiful and eloquent answer, and I will summarize it. Let's read it. Ela be'omer he'adnu ve'huzamnu bebetin peloni. We testified in a previous court. We became edim zomemim ve'chuyavnu mamon. The previous court issued a verdict. Under the terms of the verdict, we had to pay $1,000, meaning I had to pay $500. My friend who's not here, I don't know where he is. He has to pay $500. You would say as follows: perhaps because the other Ed is not here, and because he's not here, we can't force him to pay. Obviously, he's not here. So also the Ed who's before us, we shouldn't make him pay. No, we don't say that. Kamash Malan, the statement of Rabbi Yehuda comes to teach us that the Ed, here's a case where only one Ed Zomem pays and the other Ed Zomem doesn't pay because we can't find him. That's the end of the sugya. I'm going to summarize it in a moment. I'll let you just take a moment just to ponder about what we said, and then I will summarize it. Okay. We had a statement of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is a Tana. Rabbi Akiva's statement was that Edim Zomemin should not have to pay based on their own testimony. Makes sense. Why does it make sense? Because when an Ed Zomem pays, it's a kenas. What does a kenas mean? It's a punishment. It's not financial indemnification. We're punishing the Ed Zomem. That's why he has to pay. Well, if it's a kenas, then he doesn't have to pay according to his testimony because modeh ve'ozev yiruham. If a person is modeh in a knas, he's patur milishalem et knas. Okay, that's the same with Rabbi Akiva.
How come there we don't say kivan shekin enochos v'omer?
What?
How come in that case you don't say enochos v'omer? What you said the first testimony.
Right.
How come Rabbi Akiva's case he could?
Because there was no this happened during the Hakira stage. In other words, Rabbi Akiva is saying af en mishalem al pi asmo. What does that mean? Af en mishalem al pi asmo. What does that statement mean? So apparently, the Ed Zomem comes before the court, is standing before the court, and he breaks down, and he says, "I'm an Ed Zomem. I'm a lawyer. I wasn't there. I was somewhere else completely." So you would say, okay, just made himself an Ed Zomem. Answer is no. And Mishalem al pi asmo, because we said modeh biknas patur. Okay, we understand that. Then we looked and we found an Amoraitic statement, namely, in this case, Rav Yehuda, where there is a statement that is enigmatic. And they were analyzing the statement. Rav Yehuda is Dor Sheni of the Emoraim. So he makes a statement in the second generation of Emoraim. It's not until Rava, which is like fourth or fifth generation, that they finally figure out what Rav Yehuda meant. And what Rav Yehuda meant is related and kind of fills, it complements the statement of Rabbi Akiva. So Rav Yehuda said, "Ed zomem mishalem lefi chelko." What did that mean? "Ed zomem mishalem lefi chelko." So we said the situation was there was a verdict in court A. The verdict in court A was that these people are edim zomemin. They have to pay together $1,000 individually, $500. One of them comes before court B, probably suffered a lot in his life. He says, "Your Honor, please, I'm an Ed Zomem. I never paid the money I owe. Can we force him to pay the money?" Well, you would say no, because usually the rule of Edim Zomemim is either they both pay or nobody pays. But when do we say they both pay or nobody pays? As a matter of law, as a matter of a verdict. We can't have a verdict that only includes one and doesn't include the other. But here the original verdict includes both of them. So now we're just implementing the original verdict. And in that case, we say, yes, you do pay the money. You understand? That's important. Imagine a person is a robber. A robber is brought to court and Edim testify against him. They say, we saw him robbing $100. How much does he have to pay? $200. Okay. Court has a verdict against the guy. Verdict says what? He has to pay $200. Runs away, goes to, where is it? Tijuana, Mexico? Goes to Tijuana, Mexico, and he suffers there. He suffers, and finally he can't take it anymore. He realizes I suffered because I tried to go against the Bet Din. I owe $200. He comes back. He says, guys, I owe $200. He say, oh, what a Sadiq. Modeh biknas paturis, modeh biknas. He doesn't have to pay $200. No, he has to pay $200. Why does he have to pay $200? He's not modeh biknas. The verdict is $200. That's a debt. That exists. That's against him. The court already issued a verdict. That's not undone because he comes to court and he says, I owe the money. If he would have said before the verdict, he says, guys, Your Honor, I'm sorry, I don't want to lie. I want to say the truth. Yeah, I was a robber. At that point, they say, okay, there was no verdict. Okay, pay $100. That's modeh ve'ozev yiruham. But here there was a verdict already. So you see that the way this principle works throughout the legal system, it's not just in the case of Edim Zomemim. Okay? That was the sugya. If there's any questions on it, I will take them now. Yes, sir.
So the structure of the sugya looks very interesting, especially the second part. It looks like it's nested. I was wondering if you could, I guess, just whatever your thoughts were on what the structure of the sugya is, how you classify it.
I didn't think about it. That's the truth. I see that there's 5 proposed answers. The 5th one is accepted, but I didn't think about the
Well,
structure.
what
But
I-
what's happening
what-
here is it's a generational or cross-generational effort to decode the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. The only question I have is when you have Amar Rava, and then they say no, Ella, and then again they say Ella. I think that was all happening in the yeshiva in Mechoza, meaning I think that discussion was happening in front of Rava, and the solution we get is from the yeshiva of Rava, but I have no evidence for that.
Well, can I say one thing that I did
Yes.
notice is that
Albert,
first in trying to interpret
Send Mikey
what
a text. If he comes here, my son is coming at 9. We'll have a minyan for Arabic. Yes.
So first, in trying to interpret what Rabbi Yehuda meant, we have 2 answers that are thrown out, and the third answer of Rabbah is ultimately accepted.
Yeah.
But then in
So
trying
again,
to determine
assuming that that's Rava, that's my assumption. I
And
don't
then
have it.
in trying to determine what Rabbah meant,
Yeah.
the first 2 answers are thrown out, and
Right.
the third answer is accepted.
Right.
So it's the third answer within.
Yeah, but why do you say the third answer was accepted? Because it wasn't. We throw it out. Oh, where?
No,
Where?
The third answer to explain what Rabbah meant. So meaning the 5th.
Okay. I
Right.
see
So
what you're
it's
saying.
They're not all direct.
But no, because
answers.
Rava says, okay, but look at what Rava says. Because Rava says, Be'omer edut sheker ha'idoti. I don't know. To me, it's not that we're explaining Rava. It appears that we're rejecting Rava. When he says, Be'omer edut sheker ha'idoti, I was a false witness. And then they said, well, kal kamineh. So we reject it. We say Ella. The word Ella is a technical term in the Gemara. When you see the word Ella, it means we're rejecting the aforementioned. That's what Ella means, right? Any other questions? Okay, good. We're starting a new Mishnah. I'm happy. Good. That's really good. So let's start a new Mishnah. And it's interesting because
So let me back up with a question, I'm sorry.
yeah.
So does Court B, does he have to pay to Court B or does not have to?
He has to pay. I mean, he has
Because
to,
there
the money
was a
has to go.
verdict in Court A.
Right, the money has to go ultimately to the defendant who was the victim. Right, that's where the money has to go. Correct. So the court B will, maybe they'll take the money and try to. But that's a technical. Again, I'm less interested in how they actually find the defendant or his inheritors and all that. I'm more interested in the liability of the Ed Zomem to pay individually, even though his co-partner in the crime is nowhere to be found. And normally we say they either both pay or no one pays. And here we say he can pay alone. Again, because the verdict is outstanding. Yeah? Okay. All right. Let's do the Mishnah. Okay. מעידים אנו את איש פלוני שגירש את אשתו ולא נתן לה כתובתה. ולא בין היום ובין למחר סופו ליתן לה כתובתה. Here's a situation. This is pretty nasty. Things get really nasty sometimes. So these 2 witnesses come to court. They say this person, the defendant, number 1, he divorced his wife. We saw him giving a get to his wife. Number 2, normally, well, not normally, the halakha is when you divorce your wife, you have to pay up the ketubah. So like before the marriage ceremony, before the kiddushin, right before they go into the chuppah, everybody stands around the table, they have drinks, and there's a good feeling, good jive in the air. Happy tidings and goodwill. What they're doing there is they're signing the ketubah. The ketubah is a contract. And the contract states that if he divorces her, or if he dies, she gets paid a sum certain of money. And there was actually a lien against his real estate assets to pay that sum certain of money. That's the ketubah. Okay? Now, they say, these witnesses come and they say, not only did he divorce her, but he never paid her the ketubah. So, interesting. What's the difference between the 2 parts of this testimony? Who knows?
They can say for sure that he divorced her, but can they really say for sure that he didn't give her the ketubah? Maybe he gave it to her when they weren't looking.
So let's assume that the Dayanim, they cross-examine, how do you know he didn't pay her? How do you know? And the conclusion from their testimony. Let's assume that the conclusion from the testimony, let's take the Mishnah at its face value. And yeah,
I'm sorry.
they didn't pay her. For example, we are the trustees of his properties, and we know that he didn't pay her. As an example, right? It could be whatever it is, but the testimony is there. So what's the difference between the two parts? There is a difference between part A. What is part A? Part A is he divorced her. Part B of the testimony. What is part B? And he didn't pay the ketubah. What's the difference? You know the difference? You wanted to say the difference?
No, I wanted to know if they would ever take testimony from the woman.
Right. It doesn't. Right. No. Right. So back. Right. So the point is, the point is that we have these witnesses. There's two parts to their testimony. What's the difference? There's a difference.
So one's halacha, one's monetary. No.
More than that. Okay, in order to be adim zomemim, what do you have to testify? You have to testify either that somebody owes money to somebody else, or you have to testify that somebody committed a crime. In part B of the testimony, they testified what? That the husband owes money to the wife. Okay, that could be adim zomemim. What was part A of the testimony?
Divorce.
Is it a crime to divorce your wife?
No.
No, it's not.
As long as you give her a get.
It's not a crime at all. There's no crime in it.
Wouldn't it be akin to saying that we saw this loan take place of $1,000, right? So maybe he paid back, maybe he didn't pay back, right? Meaning,
Why?
the Girushin and the loan are analogous in that both of those events incur the debt, right?
Right.
Based on the loan, he has to pay $1,000. Based on the Girushin, he has to pay the
Right.
ketubah. Then the next question is, did he pay it?
Right. Nevertheless, the testimony of Gerushin, it in and of itself has no implications for Adim Zomin. Let me read to you what the Rambam says. One moment. You remember we started the earlier Mishnah, and one of the peculiar things of the earlier Mishnah was the cases that the earlier Mishnah brought. For example, Me'edim anu b'esh piloni shu ben gerusha ben halusa. It's not really a crime, but there is an implication. So let me read to you Lashon Rambam. Edim shehe'idu al echad v'hidshiru resha she'en bo. Look at the Lashon of Rambam. In order to be an ed zomem, the testimony has to be one where they are accusing him of some sort of crime. You understand? Right? And it doesn't matter that there's no malkut, there's no death penalty, there's no monetary payment. What do we do to a person like that? What do you do to the Ezim in that case? We study that. We give him malkut. Malkut is the default punishment. You testify that somebody committed a crime which he didn't commit, you give him malkut. Kesa, the Eidu al Kohen Shu Halal. They said that this Kohen, Shalom Aleichem, they said this Kohen, call up my son, Ike, tell him to come, please. You have his number? Okay, he should be coming. Okay. No, he said he's going to come, but I told him to come at 9:20. Okay. So, just 1 second. I hate disturbing the video like this.